Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Do a Powerbomb, issue number 1 from Image Comics, written and illustrated by Daniel Warren Johnson with coloring by Mike Spicer. The book is exactly what you expect from Daniel Warren Johnson. It is filled with a dynamic energy, a really heartfelt story, and just excellent comic book making. This book was absolutely fantastic. So what it is about this woman whose dream is to be a wrestler, right? But her mother was one of the most famous wrestlers of all time. And so she's always kind of lived in the shadow of her mother's. There's a little bit more to it than that, but I don't want to spoil it because it does have an emotional cord that's threaded throughout this story that makes it more than just slam bang pow awesome artwork. There actually is heart to this story. I absolutely loved it. I think Daniel Warren Johnson is one of the best, most dynamic and energetic artists out there in the business right now. His stuff has such a frantic sense of urgent energy. Urgent energy, let's just say that, right? But Do a Powerbomb is really cool. So it is about this woman who is trying to overcome all these obstacles, including her mother's shadow and her mother's success, and trying to find her own way, right? And it's really interesting. It does kind of hit on some cliches and tropes that we've seen in sports films, things like Rocky and stuff like that, but it does have its own unique sensibility and its own unique story and character-driven focus as well. I absolutely loved this book. I thought out of everything that I read this week, this one stood above and beyond and landed at the pick of the week. Do a Powerbomb issue number 1 if you like wrestling, if you like great comic book art, if you just like great comic books, you want to check this one out. Best of the week for me. Then also from Image, we have the Bone Orchard Mythos starting. So this is Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino crafting a new horror universe over at Image. It's going to be a series of graphic novels, miniseries, one-shots, things like that. And it all kicks off here with The Passageway, which is a hardcover. It's $17.99, but it's just shy of like 100 pages of story, but I liked it. Now, I will warn you that this is a very quick read. Like, you're going to buy this hardcover, you're going to open it up, and you're going to read it, and you're going to be like, wow, that's it? That's all? But it's exactly what you come to expect from Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. The artwork, the composition, the panel design, it is all absolutely fantastic. The basic premise is this: there's an island somewhere, and then all of a sudden this like seemingly never-ending hole opens up, so the scientist has to go there to this island to figure out what's going on, but it opens up a whole can of worms and apparently a whole new direction into a new horror universe by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. Incredibly atmospheric, great composition and panel design, and a really interesting story. Some may feel like there's not quite enough here in this opening launch, but I think there is. The more I think about it, the more it dwells inside after I have read it, and I've read this a couple times now. I like it even more and more each day that passes, that it's in my thoughts. So this book was awesome. If you're a horror fan, definitely check that one out. We also have Seven Sons number 1. This is a new one from Image Comics, written by Robert Wyndham and Kelvin Mayo, with artwork by Jay Lee. It's Jay Lee artwork. It's great. The panel design, the composition within is all excellent. It's interesting in concept, but in execution, the story falls a little bit flat for me. So this is a world in America in which it's almost like a theocracy's going on, and there have been these 7 rebirths of Jesus Christ or something like that, and so they're like heralded and they're worshipped by the populace of the nation or something like that. But then tragedy has occurred. There's only one of them left, but then there's possibly another one somewhere. Like I said, it's an interesting concept. It's got some cool ideas, but the story gets bogged down and its verbosity, and it just doesn't quite click well enough, especially with Jay Lee on the artwork. I love this artwork. I was really pumped for this, but the story kind of let me down just a little bit. Then we got King Spawn, issue number 11, written by Sean Lewis. Hey, by the way, Sean Lewis is going to be joining us here on Pop Culture Philosophers Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, so definitely check that out. And we got Javi Fernandez. King Spawn has just continued to ramp up in intensity issue to issue, and this is no exception. It is about to blow. I cannot wait for what's to come in this book, and the artwork by Javi Fernandez is thrilling. I love it so much. If you loved Spawn back in the day, and let's say you read like just the first 20 issues or so, never went back to it, you can pick up King Spawn issue number 1, read that. There's a trade paperback out. The book is fun. Since I have become a hardcore Spawn fan, my life has improved, and it's only gotten better. And y'all, there's just some gnarly, awesome, horrific type artwork in there that I love. Speaking of horrific artwork, we got Town Called Terror, issue number 3, with artwork by Szymon Kudranski, written by Steve Niles. I'm liking this book. It's a little bit of a slow burn, but I'm enjoying the pace at which the story is unfolding. And I really love Kudranski's artwork. It's atmospheric, it's got a mood and a tone, and it's almost at times monochromatic, but it does kind of shift those colors back and forth to appropriate the appropriate tone of the scene in which it's trying to do, but I like it. So it's about this dude who is basically raised in a town of monsters. He escaped, he never wanted to go back, now he's got to go back, he's stuck. There's like gangs of Frankenstein monsters and stuff. It's pretty gnarly. I liked it a lot. Then we got Savage Dragon 262. I've only read Savage Dragon 1, 2, and 3, the original miniseries, and I decided, you know what? Let me try to jump on the next issue of Savage Dragon whenever it comes and see what happens, because that's what I did with Spawn. Let's do it with Savage Dragon. There's a lot of shit going on in this book, y'all. There's a lot going on. I don't know who a lot of these people are. I know that Savage Dragon now has a son. And like, I don't think Dragon's around anymore. He's got a son. He's been like hopping around with an alternate dimension version of his father. There's all kinds of wacky stuff going on. They're really leaning in heavily into the whole pandemic kind of scenarios. Weird book. Savage Dragon 262. From Marvel, let's jump over there. We get Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty, issue number 1. This is a new run. It is written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly with artwork by Carmen Canero. I liked it. I really did. It is rather dense, and it takes a while to read, but it never felt like it was faulty in its pace because of it. I liked the artwork. I liked the direction of the story. It was a lot of introspection from Captain America about America and him and his place, but trying to get boots back on the ground. It kind of had like a more of an old school kind of Cap type feel to it, but it still kind of felt new. And like I said, it wasn't the most perfect comic, but I enjoyed it. I really did. And I like the direction. I like the kind of spin and twist they throw at the end. Has me intrigued to see what's going to be coming up in the pages of Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty. That, of course, is the Steve Rogers book. Then we got Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood. I was probably going to skip this. Then I saw that David Pepose and Leo Romero had done a book, an issue here, or a story here, and that was one of my favorites story-wise. I really liked their little story. It gave me lots of vibrations coming off of the Warren Ellis run. The opening story is interesting by Benjamin Percy, but Vanessa R. Del Rey's artwork on that one was absolutely phenomenal. And I don't even remember the last story. Oh, that's the Patch Zurcher story. It's okay. It's got some really solid artwork, but for the most part, didn't really do too much for me. So Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood, issue number 2, I thought was pretty good. I actually liked it more than issue number 1. Then we got X-Men Red, issue number 3. I thought about skipping out on this because I really liked issue number 1. Issue number 2, I was like, okay, it is veering more back into just, this is Sword, right? Al Ewing's continuing Sword. And in issue number 3, that stuff doesn't bother me as much, but it's just, there's some clunkiness, I think, in this issue. There's some the way things, there are certain things that happen in this one, I'm like, well, that's actually kind of clever and badass. And then other things that happen, I'm like, that's stupid as hell. So, I don't know. I'm not really into most of the X books, so it's not going to take much to get me not to pick this book up again. And I don't know, I'm kind of waning on it already. Then we got Ben Reilly, Spider-Man issue number 5. This is the final issue of the story by J.M. DeMatteis, and I believe it's David Baldeón. I really liked this book. Yeah, David Baldeón. So it's kind of taking us back to the 90s when Ben Reilly was Spider-Man after the Clone Saga, and they thought that Ben was the real Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and that Peter Parker that we had known, they had switched the clone. They were doing all kinds of crazy stuff back in the 90s with Spider-Man. But some of the good character-driven stories were done by J.M. DeMatteis, and I remember some of this stuff. And so it's really cool to, like, go back to that. We've had Spider-Side make his appearance again, and that's interesting, and we kind of get a wrap-up to the Spider-Side story that we never really got before, and it had some emotional punch to it, and I liked it. I really liked this book. It was an old-school type book with new-school type art, and the meshing really worked well, and there is a tease at the end that something called Spider-Man: The Lost Hunt is coming. I hope it involves J.M. DeMatteis and maybe Baldeón, because that was pretty awesome. Then we got Fantastic Four, issue number 44 here. Is kind of the Reckoning Wars coming to a big climatic climax here. And I got that Art Adams cover, because I love Art Adams. And this Doctor Doom may not, I mean, he's recently done like a White Queen cover and a Chewbacca cover, all kind of like this. Those were awesome. This one's honestly not as detailed, not as intricate, but it's still Doctor Doom by Art Adams, so I had to pick that up. Story-wise, it's all right. There's a lot of things moving around right now in the Reckoning War, and I'm enjoying it overall. I find it hard, having read Fantastic Four pretty much my whole life, to buy in to any, like, sense of dire danger of any of these characters when the stuff's, like, when they're like, oh, this person's probably going to die, and they're building up to it. Like, I don't know, like, you know, we've been through this stuff before. But the story is kind of working really well. It's got some clunky parts in it, but for the most part, I like the concepts of the Reckoning, of the Watchers, how they, like, in here we find out, what is the Ultimate Nullifier really? Like, where did that come from? Right? And you get some answers here. It's my cat, I don't know if you can hear. She's trying to get out of the room too, but I'm like, whoa, we're trying to talk about comics here, cat. Come on, Ariel, come on. Anyway, but Fantastic Four number 44, I'm enjoying it. Dan Slott's run is coming to an end soon. I think it is time to get some fresh blood on this title, but he is ending it in a rather climatic fashion for the climax there. Then from DC, we got Jurassic League. Number 2, very light week for me on DC. I only had 3 titles, but Jurassic League number 2, I loved better than even issue number 1. So it's co-written by Daniel Warren Johnston, but it's Juan Gideon who's pretty much doing everything here. He's doing the artwork, he's doing the writing, co-writing it with Daniel Warren Johnston, and he's kind of got that energetic flair, that action-packed sense that Daniel Warren Johnson has. And the basic premise is this: it's DC heroes and villains as dinosaurs. That's what it is. It's not trying to do much. It's just trying to be fun, wild, and ridiculous, and that's what it is, and I'm having fun with it. And I've said this on Sunday night's Rockin' Robbie Live when we were doing the DC sneak peek, but this needs to be an action figure line, and this needs to be an animated series. It needs to be, for sure. Then we got Blood Syndicate, Season 1, Issue number 2. This is from Jeffrey Thorne and Chris Cross, Juan Castro, and Will Quintana. I liked this. I liked it a lot. Most of the current Milestone books haven't really been keeping my attention beyond the first issue. Blood Syndicate has done that, and I really appreciate the character-driven nature of this story. I like the world building that they're doing. They're showing these characters' pasts, and they're showing these presents, the characters' presents, and kind of crafting a mold of where the story is going for the future. I like it. I like the villains. I like the heroic type characters that are here, and I like in between. It's kind of feels very street level. It's dealing with some gang stuff. It's dealing with post-war soldier type stuff, and I really like the way it's all coming together. So Blood Syndicate, issue number 2 for season 1. I liked it. Then we got Sandman Presents Nightmare Country, issue number 3. Loved this issue. I have loved each issue more and more. This basically stars the Corinthian. After the events of the doll's house, he's been put back into the dreaming, but he doesn't really remember things, so he's starting to remember his time out in the earth when Dream was captured as a serial killer. He's starting to remember this stuff. He's got a curiosity about it, about the real world, about not just living in nightmares and being a nightmare. So there's that going on. Then you have an artist who is sparking his interest because she is drawing pictures of some of a face with mouths for eyes, right? Like the Corinthian, and she's kind of plagued by this like entity or something, and then these two assassins are after her. Lysandra Esterin's artwork is absolutely amazing. It's got this ethereal quality to it that works exceptionally well for this book. And then you got Francisco Francavilla doing the dreaming sequence in here. Really cool stuff, and reveals a little bit more about what's actually going on with the Corinthian. I loved Nightmare Country issue 3. Thought it was super dope. Let's jump on over to Boom. And from Boom, we have Grimm issue number 2. Now, I wasn't wowed by issue number 1. And honestly, I wasn't very much wowed by issue number 2. It's got some solid artwork. It's got some neat coloring. It's packaged well. It's not a poorly written comic. It's just not grabbing my attention. It's not captivating me, right? It's similar to other things I've read, but many comics are similar to other things we've read or watched or something like that. So that's not it either. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's just something here that's not captivating me. There's something that's just missing in this. I don't know. Like I said, it's not a poorly executed comic. There's some moments like double page spreads that really, really work. Some of the concepts are interesting. It revolves around one of the Reapers. So there's like a whole bunch of Reapers. She's the only one who doesn't remember how she dies. There's something important about her. It's connected to this mystery. And so 2 issues in, we're trying to get into this mystery and build it up. But it's like, I don't have a connection to any character yet. And it's hard to care about the mystery when the concept isn't really impressing me and the character work hasn't been done enough to grab me in personally. But I know some people are really liking this. But Grimm number 2, I don't know. My interest is already waning on that one, and it's also definitely waning on Alice Ever After issue number 3. I know I see it in the comments all the time. Some people really like this book. That's cool. I love the bits in Wonderland where Dan Panosian's doing it, but those are very few and far between. It's an interesting premise for a story. It's basically taking on the story of Alice in Wonderland, but she's older now, and she's had to go to, like, say, doing drugs and stuff to get back to Wonderland. And now they're painting this idea that maybe Wonderland's really just an escape in her head and some other stuff in the past with her dad. And I'm not a Lewis Carroll. That dude's name. I'm not a Carroll philosopher. I'm not a Carroll expert. So I've never read the Alice in Wonderland novels and books and stories or whatever. I've only seen the Disney movie and remember that Disney live action TV series. Just love the shit out of that. Used to, Alice was like a teenager in a room and the people dressed as animals. You remember that? Anybody remember that? That was good. There was also a live action Alice in Wonderland film from like 70s or 80s or something. Scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. This one's not doing much for me though. I found it to be rather mundane and just, I don't know. It's an interesting premise, but it's not really doing much for me to gain my interest. Then we got Power Rangers issue number 20, Legacy number 95. Jason has just found out there's been a death close to him, so this is kind of dealing with that. So it's a little bit of a lull issue, but we know we're building up to big things in issue 100. But do not be fooled. Even though it's a little bit of a lull issue for the characters of the Power Rangers, it is concisely character focused on Jason, and it does a lot of great character work in him. Like, more character work was done on Jason in this one single issue of Power Rangers than all of the episodes Jason's ever appeared in Power Rangers. That's how good this Power Ranger book is at building out those mythological roots and cores. Sometimes I say something and I'm like, what was that even supposed to mean? But Power Rangers number 20 I really like. But do not be fooled by the character-driven, softer, emotional thread to this story, because some big things are happening to set up what's going to culminate in Power Rangers 100. Pretty pumped for that. From Albatross Comics and Eric Powell, we have Albatross Exploding Funnybooks number 1. It's an anthology, all done by Eric Powell, and that was rather cool. So it's a brand new first issue, but these are not new characters or concepts. But you don't have to have much familiarity with, say, the Goon or Hillbilly to get into this. So it is a bunch of little short stories. There is La Diabla, there is Hillbilly, there is Lester of the Lesser Gods. I've never read Lester of the Lesser Gods at all, and I enjoyed that story. That was really funny. I liked all of these stories. And then there's a Goon story, and then there are these little, like, bits. Like, this one's called Terror Toilet, and it's like a trailer for a slasher film, and it's got some Friday the 13th Part 5 vibes that I really like, because I really like Friday the 13th Part 5. Them damn enchiladas. Anyway, and we got a new Bill and Ted comic book, Station. That's right. It's Bill and Ted Roll the Dice. It's no longer at Dark Horse or IDW. You know, it was at Boom. It's no longer at Boom or Dark Horse. It's now at Opus. So Opus has been doing like the Cradle of Filth comic, and there's an Evanescence comic. Seems like they do music-based properties or something, right? So they're in it with Bill and Ted. This follows the events of Bogus Journey. Bill and Ted are still trying to learn how to play their instruments. They're trying to figure out what's going on with that. They have some drama with the princesses, and then all of a sudden, Satan shows up because they're dealing with satanic panic as well in here, which is a common theme that we've been seeing reverberate through things. Stranger Things Season 4, Department of Truth. We're starting to see this reverberate back out, so part of the book deals with that. But anyway, somehow Satan comes back, because remember, they escaped hell in Bogus Journey, and he's like, yo, that ain't cool. So he puts them back in hell, and they have to play a game, but they don't get to just play like checkers or some shit like against the Grim Reaper. They gotta like play Dungeons and Dragons, like for real in hell. And when they're creating their characters, Bill and Ted aren't the brightest at times. And so hilarity ensues. I loved it. I thought it was great. If you're a Bill and Ted fan like I am, like hardcore, it's a must-read. It's a must-read. Station. It's freaking awesome. It's another awesome book is G.I. Joe, Real American Heroes, Saturday Morning Adventures, issue number 4. This is the final issue. The writer is Eric Burnham, right? Yeah, I was on a show with him one time on Tomorrow Cinema. You should go check out Tomorrow Cinema. Great channel over there. But I really like this book. So, Cobra Commander has loosed a genie, and he has 3 wishes, and he keeps just doing the dumbest wishes. And then at the end here, the genie's like fed up, and he basically puts G.I. Joe and Cobra, all the forces on one battlefield, and just tells them to fight it out. And then there is a very kind of interesting, cool way that they get saved. I liked it. I loved the hell out of this series. It throws back to that cartoon. It has the vibe of that cartoon. It references the cartoon. The art looks like it's from the cartoon. It's awesome. The only danger is it's going to make you want to pull out your G.I. Joe figures, and if you don't have them like me, it's going to make you want to get some. Don't go down that hole, Robbie. Transformers, horror figures, 90s and 80s superhero toys, that's enough. That's enough. The Kill Lock is here, the Artisan Wraith, issue number 4. I love this book. A book about robots that is filled with more humanity than other science fiction comics that are on the market right now. I love this. Ramon Villalobos, no. Livio Ramondelli, sorry about that. Livio Ramondelli doing a fantastic job writing, creating, and illustrating this book. It's got a great sense. Sometimes the colors are very dark, and I think it would probably produce better on the screen, so I wish some of that would lighten up, but man, it is epic in scope, and it's epic in scope and scale on this grandiose level, but also on an internal, personal level. I love that book. From Aftershock, we have A Calculated Man, issue number 1. I was not into this book whatsoever. From the first page, I was not interested, and it was a chore to get through it. A Calculated Man is about this dude who like sees like numbers as colors. He's like a mathematical genius, so he's got perfect recall and all this kind of stuff. So he was a bookkeeper for the mob, and now he's trying to take out the mob, and it was just incoherent for the most part. I think Paul Tobin is a solid writer. Alberto Albuquerque's a solid artist, but this just, it clashed. It did not work for me. It just did not interest me at any point, any way through, and it was just filled with exposition. There's a lot of action in there, but there's a lot of exposition. I don't know, it just didn't work for me. Didn't vibe with me. Then we got The Ocean Will Take Us, issue number 3 from Rich Douek, Carlos Oliveras. I really like this book. It reminds me of an episode of Buffy. I think it's from season 2, where the swim team become like sea creatures or some shit like that. I think that's very similar to this story, but it doesn't make this story any less. Like, the story is really cool, but it is about this swim team at this school. There is something mysterious going on in this town with this like black goo and these sea creatures and disappearances of kids and stuff. But the one thing is the artwork is incredibly expressive and cartoony and doesn't quite fit sometimes the atmosphere that I think I would like to see in this book, but it still works and it still does the job of telling the story, and it's good, solid artwork. I would just like a darker atmosphere provided by like the colors and the line work or something. But that being said, The Ocean Will Take Us is still a pretty solid book. Then We Ride Titans, issue number 4. This book continues to impress me issue to issue. It's got giant kaiju action, giant mechs, giant kaiju, fighting, and the family drama of the family who has chosen to operate this Titan, this mech of this of this city. And each town has their own family who runs a mech to protect them from kaiju because it's a common occurrence. But now there's like rogue mech out there, and you have to contend with that. And we have the drama of the family, the brother, the sister, their relationship. That's some really interesting stuff with the father here, and it's incredibly well done. It never feels heavy-handed. It never feels weighed down. It always feels light. It feels action-packed. It's got a great pace to it. Amazing stuff. We Ride Titans, super solid, slipping under most people's radars. West of Sundown, issue number 3. Issue number 1 was solid. It's about a vampire. Her home is destroyed in New York. She has to go west. This is in the Old West. It's like a Western. She has to go to Old West with her familiar and find her native soil because all of it got burnt up when this hunter burnt down her house. And then issue 2 kind of lagged down. 3 didn't get back to the excitement I felt in issue number 1, but it was a little bit better. One of these hunters is like the Frankenstein monster, so that's kind of cool. But there are moments of the book that really work, that I like, and then moments where it just kind of falls a little flat. So it's a bit inconsistent for me, but still interesting enough, but it's not 100% working for me. Immortal Red Sonja, issue number 3. Immortal Red Sonja's got this chainmail shirt. She's put it on. She can't take it off. It's a curse. She's going to be immortal. She wants to get rid of it. She can't. It talks to her. She has to go and find Merlin to hopefully his magic will be able to take care of this. And that's the gist of this book. So I really like Immortal Red Sonja. It's written by Dan Abnett. I'm having fun with it. In this issue, the search for Merlin intensifies, and the threat that is going to possibly endanger the Immortal Red Sonja starts amping up a little bit. So I thought this was a solid issue from Dynamite. Then we got the Sumerian, Hour of the Dragon, issue number 4. This wraps up this miniseries. It's been an okay miniseries. I'll be honest, like the stories never really quite grabbed me. The artwork, though, really has. It is beautifully like painted by this cat. Who is the illustrator? Valentin Secher. Absolutely amazing artwork in this book. Really cool stuff. Could be brightened up a little bit, but I don't even think it's that. I don't think it's the printing. I think that it's so small. Now, they do reprint these in hardcovers. Those right there, they reprint those in hardcovers at bigger size, so I think this is going to look really cool in part 4. But I'm enjoying these old school, uncensored Conan-type tales that Ablaze has been doing. It seems like they're pulled from Europe. But I dig that one. I thought that was cool. Then Breathers, issue number 7. Breathers comes out like quarterly, right? So every time it comes out, I read it. I like it. Justin Matson's doing some good stuff, but all these stories are starting to interconnect. And since this book comes out every like 4 months, I get a little lost. And I forget who's the people are, because I really do like his artwork, but unfortunately it leads to most of the characters kind of looking the same. Because it's a similar style that he uses. So it's a cool book. It's got this sense of melancholy. It's got this sense of realness to it. But like I said, there's all these things that are starting to line up and connect. But I'm missing it all. I'm missing it all because this book only comes out every 4 months. So what do I need to do? Grab them up and reread them next time the book's about to come out, because this book is cool and I don't hear many people talking about it. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. Pick of the week was do a Powerbomb, but I will also say, do not sleep on, I almost said Gideon Falls, The Passageway, the first part of the Bone Orchard Mythos. Really like this book. Really great stuff. It's very similar to Gideon Falls. Seven Sons has great artwork, but the story fell flat for me. King Spawn was awesome. Captain America was pretty solid. So was that Moon Knight. Ben Reilly Spider-Man ends in a singing way. X-Men Red starting to wear thin on me a little bit. Jurassic League, Nightmare Country, super solid. Grimm was okay. Alice Ever After is starting to lose me. Power Rangers does some really good stuff there. Eric Powell doing an anthology pretty much almost all by himself. Bill and Ted are back. So is G.I. Joe. Well, they're leaving again. But anyway, some really great stories out this week. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on living. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop. Boom!